Hello friends, it's Miss Nicole. Today I am here. I'm in a grubby shirt I don't mind ruining. In my bare hands. I should probably have some gloves on though, because today we're going to learn how to tie-dye. Tie-dye is one of my all-time favorite things. It's super fun, it allows you to get really creative, and you can decorate a bunch of really boring blank white or like pastel colored items. You could do bed sheets, you could do curtains, you could do t-shirts, you could do tote bags, you could do blankets, you could do socks, you could do shorts, like if you have a pair of cloth shorts, that'd be really great. You could do linen pants, you can do all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to give you some pointers on some of the items that I like to use to do my tie-dye, and then we're going to go into the types of fabrics that receive dye better than others. So if you're dyeing something and it's not getting bright and it's not holding on to the tie-dye, or you thought that it was going to turn out super bright and super beautiful or super dark and super colorful and it just doesn't, you have to be aware of what kind of fabrics you're using, because if it's a synthetic, which means, for those of you who don't know, a synthetic is something that's not real. So it might not be an authentic cotton, for example. It might be, something like a nylon or something like that. That will affect if the dye sticks to what you're dyeing. So it's super disappointing to pick something really cool and you start to dye it and then it just doesn't turn out the way you want it to. So it's really important to pay attention to this. My adults, this might be more for you than it is for the kids, that knowledge. But my kiddos, stick around and we're going to show you how to do some awesome designs with just rubber band, dye, and we're going to practice on 2 little bitty t-shirts, and then I have a pillowcase that I'm going to dye. So I will show you exactly how we're going to do that. So stay tuned. All right, it's Miss Nicole back with your tie-dye materials. So a really important thing to note is that we are not making the dye. So we're buying store-bought dye. Typically it's some sort of powder, and then you add typically cold water to the powder in some sort of squeezy bottle, and that will give you your dye in a bunch of different colors. So if you use a RIT dye, which is also for my adults there, if you're using a RIT dye, it's already going to be in liquid form, so then you'll go ahead, 9 times out of 10 it's already in liquid form, so then you'll follow the instructions on the package. For any of the dye you get, go ahead and follow the instructions on the package on how to make the dye itself, okay? So that being said, I'm going to go ahead through and show you what our ingredients are for today for one of the more fun, one of the more fun summer activities in my personal opinion. So I'm going to show you, I can't talk today, what's happening? I'm going to show you 3 different methods of tie-dye. 2 of them are very simple and 1 of them is very special. So it's also very easy once you get the hang of it. So here we go. The thing you'll need is your dye. That's the first thing you'll need. These are the 4 colors I'm going to be working with. I'll probably just work with these 3 to be honest with you, because I don't know if I really want to throw the black in there, but we'll see. We have navy blue right there. We have this beautiful pink. We have this gorgeous emerald green, and then we've got black right there. Okay, so there's our dye. Very important. That is the most important thing in this entire project. Here I'm using hair ties because I forgot to grab my rubber bands. So I'm using hair ties. Very important. You'll need a tub or a bowl of some sort. I recommend doing this outside. You can also do it in your bathroom. In the tub, just make sure you wash it out immediately after so the dye doesn't discolor anything. So if you're working indoor, I suggest putting down some garbage bags, some plastic garbage bags, to make sure that you're not ruining your floor. Okay, and then the next ingredient our storage bags, you need the big gallon bags. They don't need to, the sliding part doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're slide or if they're the regular enclosure, but you need gallon-sized Ziploc bags. All right, so as many as you need for each item, so one for each item. All right, and then you need your items, the things that you're actually going to dye. So I have 2 t-shirts, a nice pastel pink, because I thought that would go really cool with the darker pink, the green, and the blue. I thought that would be kind of fun. And then here's my pillowcase. All right, so very important stuff to have. So there are our dyes. They're the things we use to dye. And I'm just going to give you some information on where I got my dye kit. My dye kit came in this little container. I got it at Walmart this is Tulip brand. I got it for $20, and I think it came with like 12 different colors. It came with 60 rubber bands, 6 pairs of gloves, and it does come with a project guide. Sorry, it got a little ripped, but it comes with a huge tub of colors and materials, everything you should need to do your tie-dyeing, all except the water. So that is that. You can also buy RIT dye. You can get whatever colors you want and then just use that, and that will work equally as well. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I do really quickly though want to mention the importance of fabric. So this pillowcase here is 100% cotton. This is going to be really important in how your tie-dye turns out. Cotton, the dye will stick to cotton really, really well, as you can see there. Fiber, 100% cotton. Okay, so that's really important when you're making this stuff. The higher the cotton content, the better. If you're using more synthetic fabrics, my adults, go ahead and look that up if you're unsure. But if you're using any synthetic fibers, it's going to be more difficult to dye and keep the color fastness. So this right here is 100% pre-shrunk cotton, as you can see right there, and this one is the exact same. So these I got at the dollar store for $1 a piece with tax, and then this I just had laying around and thought, you know what, I could zhuzh it up a little bit. So here we go. The thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of our shirts, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and use this one. I'm gonna pinch it in the middle, okay? And then I'm going to spin in one direction. You can do clockwise, you could do counterclockwise, whatever works, okay? So here I have that, and then I'm going to take the edges of it and I'm going to swing it around to continue the swirl. If you're SpongeBob, you might say bring it around town, just for fun while you're doing it, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and set my phone down while I do that. Okay, so there we have our swirl. I'm sorry I couldn't show you exactly how to bring the edges in, but you're just going to swirl the edges in the exact same direction, counterclockwise or clockwise, and then you're going to pinch it all together like this. So then you're going to take a rubber band or a hair tie, and you're going to put it right down the middle, right smack dab down the middle. So I'm going to put my phone down for a second again, and I'll show you where I put the rubber band. Alright, so there we have one rubber band. Then I'm going to take another rubber band and I'm going to put it across this way. Alright, so right across. We just want to make sure that we're getting all of these edges in there so that they don't get forgotten, because that's really important. So now I'm going to go ahead and do one diagonal. So right through, right through there, kind of like a pie. It's like an unfinished pie. And then we'll go ahead and put another one through diagonally this way, and that'll keep it all in one place. So here we go. right, so there we have our t-shirt pie, I like to call it. All right, so we've got we have 8 different sections. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How did we didn't end up with 9, did we? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, I can count. All right, so there we have our t-shirt pie. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put mine in this little tub, and I'll rinse it out before I do my next one, okay? And then I'm gonna take my first color. So I'm actually gonna start with the pink because we are working with a pink shirt. I'm gonna shake it up a little bit, okay, just to be sure. And then I'm gonna pop this top off. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm getting this dye into all the little nooks and crannies where I want it, okay? So you might want to actually press it into some areas, okay? Now this pink is going to be a little less bright because I did dilute it a little bit. I didn't want it to be too strong, okay? Now whenever you're feeling good about however much you put on, you're going to go ahead and flip it over and you're going to do the exact same thing. So again, like, be careful where you're setting your t-shirt because there is dye now all over the bottom of our bowl. So there's the pink, okay? So I'm just gonna do pink on this one and I think some blue, and we're gonna try to get some sort of purpley tones in there. Let me go ahead and pop this top off. It's so difficult. There we go. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to be a little bit sparing with this because I want to save some for my other t-shirt because I also want to use the blue for that. Again, we're going for more of a unicorn type tie-dye for this one. I just want it to be a little bit pastel. All right. Oh, sorry, my finger was in there. All right. So there we have our first tie-dye. Now this is the swirl technique, okay? So we're hoping to get a little bit of like a swirl pattern with this, okay? Then what I'm gonna have you do, this is the hardest part of all of the tie-dye in my personal opinion, is you take it, you put it in a baggie, okay? And then you don't touch it for an entire night. Not at all. You're gonna leave it in that baggie all night. And one method that I really love is leaving it in the baggie and putting it in a refrigerator overnight. I think that is a really great way to do it. It kind of sets the dye a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and actually get some of this dye in there. I think why not just go all out and try it? All right, so there we go. All right, we got some purple, we got some pink, we got some blue. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna pop it in my bag. There we go. And then I'm gonna pop it in the refrigerator overnight, and that will help set. I'm gonna squeeze out all my air, and that'll help set the dye so it should be a better result. All right, so there's one. Yay! Okay, my pillowcase here, I'm going to do the crumple technique. So those of you who are not familiar with the crumple technique, it is basically taking your item, okay, and you're gonna crumple, 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 crumple as much as you want. Get real fancy with it. And this will make kind of like you know when you see the reflection of water and it kind of dances and it has like veins and squiggly lines and stuff? That's what this will get you. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna take more rubber bands, you're gonna crumple it into a big circular ball, okay? And then you're going to take your rubber bands and you're going to close it off into a pie again, just like we did the other one. So we'll do one up and down, one across, one diagonally, and then the last one diagonally this way, okay? And then you'll go ahead and add your dye. This one I'm going to be really sparing with because I want a nice kind of pastel, and I'm not going to wait overnight to wash this one out. If you don't want to wait overnight and you want more of a pastel, go ahead and read the directions on your dye. At least leave it on the minimum, I would say, just to make sure that when you wash it for the first time, it doesn't all wash out. So here we go. Alright, so I figured I would just do a real lazy crumple because I kind of want this to turn out really random. So you can apply all of the rubber bands and hair ties like you normally would. I'm just going to go ahead and do two though. I have one going up and down and one going across. Alright, and then I'm just gonna squirt it all over wherever I want. I want this one to be nice and random. Okay, make sure to get some down in those little crevices. That's important. And I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to do the same thing. But I want this side to have more green on it. So I go in with a little bit of green. So just a little bit. This one's nice and vibrant, so I'm not going to do quite as much of the green. Again, this is just the crumple technique. We never know how it'll turn out. I think this one's more randomized. I prefer this one in my opinion. I think it's kind of cool. I don't want it to be too saturated, so I'm just going to leave it there. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to take my baggie. I'm going to take my tie-dye. And then I'm going to go ahead and place it in the bag. Now, I'm going to avoid sucking up any of this additional dye because I want it to be more speckled and kind of lines and fun stuff like that. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it in my baggie and I will be right back. Now this last one, I'm going to go ahead and leave the green in here because I'm just going to use green for this. But we're going to make a Mickey Mouse tie-dye. Now, this might sound really difficult, but it's actually not. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is, I'm going to have you, if you have chalk on hand, you can use chalk. I'm not going to use chalk because the only other thing I have is pencil, and you can't erase pencil off of fabric. So, you're going to draw one Mickey ear, okay? You're going to draw another Mickey ear in chalk or with your finger, and then you're going to draw a third Mickey, like the third Mickey circle. That'll be the Mickey face. So two small circles for ears and then one big circle in the middle, okay? And then you're going to pinch the center of each circle. You're going to pull it up just a little bit, and then you're going to tie it with a hair tie. And then you're going to do the same thing to the two ears. So I'm going to come back and show you after I've done that, okay? And then we'll get to dyeing. Alright, so for this one, I figured, you know what, I'm actually going to try my best to set up some sort of tripod situation. Kind of falling, which isn't the best, but I want to try to show you how to draw the Mickey Mouse. You might not be able to see it right away until I lift the camera, but I'm going to just go ahead and use, this is a Crayola washable marker. I'm using like a minty aqua color because that kind of will get hidden by whatever dye I'm using because it's a greenish color. I'm going to go ahead and use dots to make a general outline of where I want my Mickey Mouse head. Alright, so the big circle is going to be in the center. Alright, do your best with making the circle. It'll look better once you pinch it. Okay, and then make one ear, and then make a second ear. So again, it does not need to be perfect. All right, now that's going to be my Mickey Mouse head. So there we have big circle, right there, little circle for ear, and then another little circle for ear. So then I'm going to find the center of each circle. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my marker again, and I'm gonna put a dot right there in the center of the big circle, a dot right there in the center of one ear, and then a dot right there in the center of the other. That's where you're gonna take the fabric and you're gonna pull it up, all right, and then you're gonna secure it with a hair tie. What's really important about this, like super important, is that you only get one layer of fabric when you're dyeing this. So I'm going to take one of my baggies and I'm actually going to stick it right underneath that first layer, okay? Because we do not want it to bleed through to the other side. You might get some, but at least on the other side you won't have the Mickey Mouse. I only want the Mickey Mouse on one side. If you do want it on both sides, you can totally just skip this step, but just be aware that your Mickey Mouse is not going to look exactly circular like this side might look, like the front side. Alright? So I'm trying to undo my bag and I'm messing it all up. So I'm going to say goodbye and then I'll be right back after I get my bag situated. We have one circle tied up. So here we can see our ears have kind of gotten a little scrunchy. You're going to kind of separate the fabric, find that center dot again, pull it up, and then make a much smaller little nubby with the fabric, and then tie it down with a hair tie. And then you're going to continue and do the same thing on the other ear. And then you're going to choose one color. I find this is the best way to do it. You're going to use one color to dye all three circles of your Mickey Mouse. So you'll dye this, you'll dye the second nubby, and then you'll dye the third nubby, and then the outside, I wouldn't use that color to dye anything unless it's on the outer portion of the shirt. Otherwise, it could bleed into your Mickey Mouse, and then he won't look like Mickey Mouse anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie these, and then I will be right back to show you how to finish the rest of it. And if you want to, you can totally sing like the Mickey Mouse song. You can M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, I don't know the rest of the lyrics. I'm being silly though. So I'm just trying to keep you guys entertained while I tie up my tie-dye. Okay, I think we have it. So it'll look super silly. I'm talking super silly. Like, look at that. That's so silly. So what I'm going to do is you really need to saturate as much of each of these little nubbies as you possibly can. I'm talking like lift up that fabric. Okay, now I'm going to transfer it into my bowl. Now there's going to be green everywhere else. It doesn't matter. Okay, because my bag's there. So you can see I've got some green there. If you really want to be particular about it, which is totally fine, you do you. That's okay. You can go ahead and do it on a clean surface. I just like mine kind of random, so I'm going to use black because I'm going to stick true to our Mickey Mouse origins, okay? And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to squirt the black to the best of my ability only on the nubbies. So I'll be back as soon as I get that done. You can tie up the rest of the t-shirt, so you're going to dye all of this, all of that, all of that. You can tie up the rest of your t-shirt now if you would like to before you start dyeing this. I recommend that. You can go ahead and remove your baggie now. Okay? And then twist and dye accordingly. So you'll dye these three the same exact color, and then the rest of your shirt, just spray down with dye, whatever color you want to use. So I'm doing black for Mickey Mouse, and then I'm going to use the rest of my green for the rest of the shirt. I'm just going to do a twist technique for the rest of the shirt. So I've got this in the center. You'll just use that as the center, and then you'll twist, 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 tie with maybe 2 or 3 ties just to hold the rest of the shirt together so it doesn't slide out, and you're golden. Here it is all tied up. So I'm just going to put it back in there. I'm actually going to go ahead and use the green first around the edges, Get as much as you'd like in there. You can go like section by section, different color, like 1/4 of it, whatever color, and then the next quarter of it, whatever color. I like to go in and just do the one color. All right, so there I have it on the front. So on the back, I want there to be more green. So I'm just gonna kind of, whoop, let it soak in. You can actually roll the entire shirt in the rest of that dye, that green dye. Here you go. Fun, 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 fun. So then I'm gonna take my black, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do these. Here we go. All right, so here we've saturated the 3 little nubbies, okay? And then I added black in other areas of the shirt as well. Don't worry too much. I do have the little hair ties tying that off, so that should help. Just be careful with whatever color you use on the nubbies, because it will indeed spread. So it should come out like a Mickey Mouse. If mine got messed up, it's because I used too much black too close to the edges, but it spreads pretty evenly, so it'll probably turn out pretty circular anyway. So there you go. Make sure you do not put your shirt back in there. If you're coloring the nubbies, do it like this, kind of upside down, so that you're not getting the dye anywhere else on the shirt. You're just kind of holding it so it can drip down and out instead of into the rest of the t-shirt. Okay, so then you're gonna do what you do with all your other shirts. You're gonna go ahead, you're gonna put it in your baggie, and then you're gonna pop it in the refrigerator overnight, or you could just let it sit for as long as your dye says. I would stick to maybe about an hour at least, but most dyes will have the instructions right on the bottle or the package. And I will be back to show you our results. They will be damp, they won't be dry, but you can get an idea of how they all turned out. So I hope you guys have fun using these techniques, and I will be back with the results. Right, so we're actually going to do one more method as a surprise, a bonus. Okay, here's a pillowcase. You'll do the same thing with the t-shirt for this method. So this is a stripe method, okay? So this is probably the easiest out of all of them, but it is very important that you are particular with this and very precise, because the stripes can come out a little wibbly wobbly. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the end of your t-shirt. Imagine if this was a t-shirt, it would have one sleeve there and one sleeve there. You're going to take the edge of your pillowcase and you're going to fold it into the center. Just like so. Make sure it's nice and even. Then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to fold it over that side. Okay? So there we have it. Then you're going to squeeze where you want your different stripe colors to be. So I'm going to have 4 stripes. I'm going to do this tan and then a gray and then tan and then gray. I'm just going to use my black tie-dye, and I'm going to rinse it out before the 1 or 2 hours that they tell you to let it sit. So I'm going to use some twine to tie it, not rubber bands, because that might be a little too tight for this. And I want these to be a little bit more exact. So you're going to pinch, and then you're going to wrap the twine or your rubber band around it. That's totally fine. So it'll distinguish between where the stripes will go. And then I'm going to stop applying my dye about there, because it will spread up to about where the yarn is. Alright, so there we have some. I'm going to go ahead and rub in some of this dye here. I didn't have quite enough for what I wanted to do, but I'm actually going to go ahead and draw a line through here with this color, because I want it to be kind of random. Alright, so that's going to go there. And then I'll flip it and do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so just as a side note, for the swirl technique, you're going to want to do each of the 8 sections a different color. You might not want to do each one a different color. You might want to just like go back and forth between 2 colors, like one blue, the next one white, the next one blue again, the next one white, the next one blue. You know, however you want to do it, and that'll give you more of a perfect swirl. I wanted to do mine a little bit more random, plus I only had a limited amount of colors that I was working with. So I just wanted to give you that tidbit of information. Also, as you'll see from my pillowcase stripe technique, you'll want to take the hint that you need a lot more dye for things like pillowcases, especially if it's a heavier fabric. Mine's 100% cotton, but it's more of a flannel material. Now, this was an old pillowcase that I had on hand. I didn't want to spend any extra money. So I used that one because I could kind of get rid of it. It was old. I didn't need it anymore. So yeah, it's gonna need a lot more dye than just your typical t-shirt and just a regular, as we know it, like a jersey 100% cotton for my adults. So yeah, my stripes didn't turn out exactly how I wanted them. So I'll show you the disaster that came from it, but it looks a little bit more like ink blots all over the place in random areas. So not my finest moment, but as you can see, I make mistakes just like everybody else. So forgive me for that, but you will just follow along the technique. Just make sure you're saturating each section that you intend to be a stripe. So instead of just like randomly squirting some dye, make sure that you're randomly squirting it, but covering the entire area that you want to be that color, that stripe that you want to be that color. This entire section would be black, just a bar of black. There would be none of this tan showing anywhere. Right here would just be a bar of that greenish blue. There wouldn't be any of this tan showing, you know, and you would just try to avoid getting the other colors into that stripe. This would just be a solid stripe of black. There would be no tan there. And then right there I would do another bar of blue, but I wanted it to be kind of asymmetrical, so I went ahead and put that green blue here, but I didn't put any there. Alright, so that's how you would do this stripe. It's very, very easy to see when I hold the camera out like this. It would be black, green blue, black, green blue, or tan, whatever you would like to do. You go ahead and use the colors of your choice. And you can go ahead and make the stripes thinner by going ahead and adding more ties. So you might put one here, 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 and here, and that would give you thinner stripes, and you would just color them in those big blocks again. Alright, so I hope that gives you some insight. This is one of the easier techniques to do. It does really involve much more dye than any other though. Just a little heads up. Here we go, washing the dye out. This sat for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. This is my pillowcase that I did with the crumple technique. So again, you'll want more ties in it. Look at all that dye coming out, okay? So you'll want more ties in it if you want it to be even more crumply. This is the most random and the easiest to make look good of all of the methods. Alright, so I'm going to finish washing this out, and then I'm going to wash out the other ones. I just wanted to show you how we're going to do it. Follow the instructions on your dye packets. I'm using cold water to rinse mine out. Guys, I'm back and it's the next morning, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what happened. I had to rinse out the dye just a little bit more because it was kind of leaving some marks. So I hadn't got all the dye out and I thought I had. So just be careful. Make sure that water really runs clear when you're rinsing that dye out to make sure that it is all nice and good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this clip and then show you an example of each. They're still damp, again, because I had to rinse them out. But we have a pillowcase in the crumple technique. We have a pillowcase in the stripe technique that went wrong. However, it's really hard to mess up tie-dye, so I actually think it turned out really cool. It's not the typical stripes, but I like it, so bear with me. And then we have a t-shirt in the swirl style, which it is difficult to see the swirl because I didn't color every section a different color. I colored them between the two, but you do see a little bit of a swirl. I went for like a unicorn mermaid theme, so it's a pastel pink shirt with a darker pink and then some purple in there that I made by mixing the pink with some blue. And then I have my Mickey Mouse, which didn't turn out super great. And that was because that black that I used for Mickey Mouse's face probably should have been, I should have been a little bit more sparing with it because it leaked through where I put the hair ties. So there's no real distinction between any of the circles, and it's kind of like this big blob. But just be very careful when you're applying color to the Mickey Mouse circles if you're doing the Mickey Mouse tie-dye, because if it bleeds into each other, it will make it really hard to tell what you were trying to make. You can kind of see the outlines, as you'll see in about a second. I would recommend almost not dyeing Mickey Mouse at all. So like when you pull those circles up and tie them off, don't dye them. Just dye around them with whatever colors you want to do. If you do the swirl technique or if you do the crumple technique around the Mickey Mouse, that's totally fine. Just do that and maybe leave the Mickey Mouse head completely free of any dye, so it'll be the color of the t-shirt. Again, that's just my tip. I've done it in the past before where you dye the actual Mickey Mouse, and I've never had it turn out this badly. So bear with me. I'm sorry. Usually when I do tie-dye, it turns out pretty well, but we all have those days when we have these grand ideas in our head and they just don't turn out how we want them to. So, thank you for working with me and kind of watching me go through this process. You can do it however you want to. Again, you know, if you mess up, you might have some happy accidents, guys, because I'm really liking this stripy t-shirt, and I really even like the Mickey Mouse one, even though Mickey Mouse isn't super prominent on it. And the swirl technique, I didn't do exactly how you're supposed to necessarily, but you do see a little bit of a swirl, and the way that the color is distributed is much different than the other techniques I've done. So, all right, here we go. Here we have the crumple technique. This is the pillowcase I did. So I wanted a pale blue with this darker green teal color. Thought that turned out really awesome. Okay. Right here I have my stripe technique. As I said, I actually fell in love with the way that this turned out. I think it's really cool. It kind of has that 80s almost like acid wash feel to it for any adults who are familiar with that. So that's pretty cool. And then I'll show you the back side because the back side turned out super different. All right. There's the back side of it. So we have some blobs. I'm liking those blobs. It's almost like a shibori technique. The denim color really kind of makes it look like that a little bit, I think. And right here is the swirl style technique. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this into the sunlight just a tad bit more so you guys can see. So right here we kind of have the center, and then as you can see it's kind of following a circular pattern, and the color's getting a lot more distributed on the edges towards the ends of the t-shirt. So the sleeves really have some up here on the shoulders, again up here on the shoulders, the sleeves, and then the bottom. Okay, so that's what the swirl technique will get you. Again, go ahead and alternate colors, each wedge a different color. After you make your pie, just color each slice a different color, or alternate back and forth between 2 or 3, okay? So that'll yield a more unique result for that. And then over here is our Mickey Mouse. So personally I love the way that this turned out. I think it's absolutely awesome, okay? So I'm gonna go in and show you the Mickey Mouse, okay? So right here, you can see the lines from where the hair ties divided the different circles. So there's the head right there. There's the ear. You can see that super prominently where the hair tie tied off the ear. Okay, there's one. And then over here you can kind of see that circle right there where the hair tie was tying off that ear. Okay, so you see one ear, one face. Okay, so if you guys try this out, I recommend doing it on a shirt that you don't mind throwing out first. Practice it. I've done this many times before, but you know, sometimes the world just doesn't want to work with you, and sometimes it doesn't turn out perfect. Luckily, I only got this shirt for $1, and it doesn't fit me, so it's not going to be an issue. you know, or if you have something that you want to gift to somebody, you could totally just gift this to somebody as a gift, a homemade gift. But there you have it. There's your Mickey Mouse. I would maybe try tying the hair ties super tight. Again, maybe try not dyeing the actual circles that you pull up, so the little nubbies that you get when you tie them off, maybe don't dye them. Maybe leave them the color of the t-shirt, which would be this light pink color. And you would do that with the ears as well. Or maybe just dip the tip of the little circle that you tie off. Maybe just dip it into some dye, in a bowl of dye, very, very lightly, and stop about halfway to the hair tie where you've tied it off, so that that way if it spreads, it won't bleed into everything else. So there is my tie-dye video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Get fancy with your techniques. Again, do this however you want. Get as technical as you'd like. I was a bit loose with mine, not following it exactly step by step, just because I like to end up with cool designs. See, I've got like sun rays there from my swirl. I thought that turned out awesome. A lot different than the crumple technique, which gives you these really random patches, and you end up with more of the t-shirt color than you do the dye typically, depending on how much you put on it. And then again, there's the stripe technique. So again, make sure you have enough dye to do the stripe technique and saturate the entire stripe, just like where I'm highlighting now with my hand, okay? And then up here you would do the same thing. Saturate it all with that same black, navy blue color, whatever color you choose, to get more accurate stripes. But I kind of really loved how these turned out. I hope you guys have fun, mess around with these. Show us some pictures of any tie-dye you've done in the past, or any you may do after this video. We would love to see what you've come up with, all right? So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and messing around with some tie-dye, getting messy, dyeing your hands. Look at all of that. I still can't get all of this off. I might have to use a face scrub to get that off. So make sure you wear some gloves if you don't want your hands all dyed up. Make sure you protect your surfaces, okay? And make sure that you just have fun with this. Don't get too bummed if it doesn't turn out exactly how you want it. Practice if you want to on things that you could throw away that you don't mind ruining, or just embrace it. Buy some cheap t-shirts. Go to the thrift store if you're comfortable with that. Just make sure you're washing things before you use them. You know, with everything going on lately, I would do that anyway, regardless. And yeah, just have fun. Use cheap stuff. Have fun. All right, and send us your results if you want to. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day, and I hope you have fun. Thanks.